In modern basketball, the point guard is the most important position on the court. The point guard is the player that initiates the offense, also scoring a lot of points in this era of basketball. The point guard is the guy that's going to give you 30 points while also giving you about 10 assists. But some teams have far better point guards than others. So today, I want to rank the top 25 point guards in the NBA. These players may range from youngsters like Josh Giddey,
also players who did not play this year,
like Ben Simmons and Jamal Murray.
Anyways,
will not be on this list. Let's get into it. So there won't be any honorable mentions, as 25 is a lot of guards. 25 point guards is almost every starting point guard in the NBA. Although some teams have a better backup point guard than other teams have a starting point guard. And we'll see that in a minute. Anyways, at 25, we have rookie Damian Mitchell. At 24, Mike Conley. 23, Jalen Brunson. 22, Josh Giddey. And 21, D'Angelo Russell. At 25, we have Davion Mitchell. And this is an interesting one because Mitchell this season has not been that exceptional. Putting up about 11 points and 4 assists on only 49% true shooting, he would have never made this list if it wasn't for the fact that with these younger players, I'm splitting their seasons up into sets of 20. For example, for Davion, I am taking his last 20 games into account when I rank him. So, in his last 20 games, he's putting up 15 points, 6 assists, 2 rebounds, on only 53% true shooting, which is not that great, but still, that's a lot better than his season averages. On top of that, he's also one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, so with those stats, he definitely deserves a spot on this list. And then at 22, similar to Mitchell, we have Josh Giddey, who again, for his season averages, he's not looking too great. But when you take his last 20 games, yeah, he starts looking a lot more like a top 25 point guard in this league. Jalen Brunson at 23 is an example of a team with 2 point guards, though I don't understand how that works, as they both play together. Basketball Reference says he's a point guard, but I think he's more like a shooting guard. I just took Basketball Reference, that's why he's here. Anyways, let's go on to the next 5. At 20, we have Lonzo Ball. 19, Kevin Porter Jr. 18, Kyle Lowry. 17, Malcolm Brogdon. And 16, Tyrese Maxey. So at 20, we have 24-year-old Lonzo Ball. Ball's stats are definitely not eye-popping, as he's only putting up about 13 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists on 58% true shooting. But to all people who have watched the Bulls play, Lonzo Ball's impact goes far beyond the basic stats. He's one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. His assist numbers do not give him justice for how good of a playmaker he really is. And to the Bulls, by getting injured, he probably blew any chance that they were going to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. As well, they've been eliminated a couple weeks ago. So, although his stats are not that great, I think his impact is a little bit greater than his basic stats. So, Lonzo Ball, also like a top 5 3-point shooter in the NBA, he comes in at number 20 on my list. And then following Lonzo, we have Kevin Porter Jr., who, similar to other young players, is really not putting up stats worthy of being a top 25 point guard. 15.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, 6 assists, a bad defender. Yeah, he probably wouldn't make this list. But again, because he's only 22 years old, I am taking his last 20 games into account. And in his last 20 games, he's putting up 20 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds. And 20 games is a pretty big sample size. That is 1/3 of his season. So I think he will translate these performances to next year. And if he does, yeah, he's a top 20 point guard in the NBA. Additionally, he's also shooting 56.5% true shooting, which is pretty good. Porter, he comes in at 19. The other 3 are just pretty straightforward, so let's go on to the next 5. At 15, we have Cade Cunningham. 14, Tyrese Haliburton. 13, LaMelo Ball. 12, De'Aaron Fox. And 11, Drew Holiday. Cunningham is another example of a guy that probably wouldn't be on this list if it wasn't for the fact I'm splitting their season up into 20 game sets. This season, he's putting up at 17.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, and only about 50% true shooting. But in his last 20 games, he's putting up 21 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, on 53% true shooting, which looks a lot more like a top 15 point guard. So yeah, that's why he comes in at 15. In my opinion, I think by the end of next year, I think he should be like a top 8 point guard in the league. Maybe even like top 5. That's probably pushing it. But I think Cunningham's going to be an elite player very, very soon. Then also, there's one of the more interesting guys on this list, and in my opinion, the most underrated player in the league. And that is Tyrese Haliburton. To all of you guys that watch the top 25 players with the highest potential, you know I put Tyrese in the honorable mentions category, which was completely wrong. Haliburton is probably in that 10 to 15 range if I re-ranked it. Ever since his trade from Sacramento to Indiana, he's been phenomenal. 17.5 points, 10 assists on 63% true shooting, a 21 player efficiency rating, and he played 26 games, which is, a lot of games, so it's a pretty good sample size. Haliburton has established himself as already one of the better point guards in the NBA at only 22 years old. But LaMelo Ball still remains the best player in the class as he finishes one spot above Haliburton. De'Aaron Fox follows LaMelo. He started off ice cold this year, but he picked it up and he's putting up fine numbers. I'd say he's still a better player than LaMelo Ball, although I do think that'll change very soon. Let's get on to the top 10. At 10, we have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 9, DeJounte Murray, and 8, Darius Garland. DeJounte Murray is one of the most underrated players in current basketball. I won't say he's as underrated as Tyrese Haliburton, but he is most certainly underrated. Putting up about 21 points, 8 rebounds, and 9 assists on all defensive level defense as he's already made an all defensive team. DeJounte is one of the best point guards in the NBA. He's also shooting only about 53% true shooting, which is not that great, but he does a lot of other things that make up for that poor efficiency. His elite playmaking, his elite defense, his elite rebounding, and his pretty good scoring make him one of the best all-around point guards in the NBA. I would even put him over Darius Garland, although I know people are not going to be happy about that one, so I won't. But that's my opinion on him. I think he's already one of the best point guards in the NBA, and I think he's going to be there for a very long time. The other two are just self-explanatory, so let's get on to the next two. At 7, we have Kyrie Irving, and 6, Damian Lillard. You can say whatever you want about Kyrie Irving, but that doesn't take away the fact that he's an elite basketball player. Probably the best three-point shooter in the NBA this year. He's putting up about 27 points, 6 assists, 4.5 rebounds on 59% true shooting. He's also shooting 42% from 3 on 8.2 attempts a game. He's only played 29 games this year because of what we all know happened, so that hurts his rating in my opinion. If it wasn't for those 29 games, he would probably be above Damian Lillard and number 5, which you'll figure that out soon. But yeah, Irving, he comes in at 7. Following him, it's Damian Lillard, of course. And, well, Lillard, who was most people's number 3 point guard in the NBA, kind of had a major down year and then got injured for the entire year. Only 24 points and 7 assists on only 55% true shooting, which for his standards is quite poor. But this pretty bad season doesn't take away from the fact that he was an elite player, putting up almost 30 points a game for 2 years straight. So he doesn't drop too far down, but I think like a 3 to 6 or a 4 to 6, whatever you wanted to put him at, is kind of fair. So starting off the top 5, at 5 we have Chris Paul of the Phoenix Suns. We all know he just put on a disaster performance in the NBA playoffs. Yeah, the Phoenix Suns just got blown out by the Mavericks, and the 63-win team got toppled down in the second round. But I don't care how much slander he receives, that doesn't take away from the fact that he still is the point guard. He can flip an entire team's record. The Suns were a lottery team before Paul, and then they became the best team in the league. Putting up only about 15 points and 11 assists, his numbers are not special, but that doesn't mean that much because his impact on the court goes far, far beyond his numbers. Chris Paul could probably go 7, 6, whatever, but I think 5 is a good spot for Paul. There may be a handful of Chris Paul haters in the comment section, but y'all are really just haters. He's a really good player and nothing will change my mind on that. At number 4, we have Trae Young. Do I have to explain anything on this, to be honest? I think Trae Young should be everyone's 4th rated point guard. I don't think anyone will have him higher than 4, but lower than 4. So, yeah, he's obviously an elite scorer, an elite playmaker. Has been really efficient this year. Obviously a terrible defender, but he does a lot on the court, so it's fine. Yeah, Trae comes in at 4. So now we're in the top 3, and for these 3, I'm just going to name them all straight. At number 3, it's Ja Morant. 2, Stephen Curry, 1, Luka Doncic. So I think Luka Doncic is consensus number 1. He's the best scorer out of these bunch. He's the best playmaker. He's the best rebounder. He explodes when it comes to the playoffs. I think Luka Doncic is the best point guard in the NBA. But what is a debate is Ja Morant versus Stephen Curry. I put Stephen Curry at 2 and Ja at 3. But I know a lot of you guys may disagree with that. So we're going to do a head-to-head comparison between Ja Morant and Stephen Curry. Okay, the first thing is scoring. Ja is putting about 27.4 points a game on 57.5% true shooting. On the other hand, Curry's only putting up 25.5 points a game, but he's doing that on 60% true shooting this year. He's obviously had a down year when it's come to scoring, as last year he put up 32 on 65% true shooting. But this is not last year. Ja is putting up more points on only slightly less efficiency. So, who's really a better scorer? I really cannot decide here. Simply put, I cannot decide. Those couple more points or those couple more percentage of efficiency. It really all depends. But if I'm going to choose one, I will choose Ja Morant just because he's averaging about 2 more points than Curry. When it comes to playmaking, although Ja's averaging 6.7 assists to Curry's only 6.3, Curry is still a better playmaker because he draws so much attention. I said Ja's a better scorer, so why is Curry drawing more attention? That's because Curry can shoot the 3 ball. So now everyone has to guard him from so far out. And Curry's drawing even more attention, and he's a pretty good passer. So he finds the right guy, and that's why, in my opinion, he's a better playmaker. Though with him, you might just get some random turnovers where he chucks away the ball, which is something I guess you have to deal with. Because he's not an exceptional passer, but he's a good passer. So yeah, Curry, he's the better playmaker. When it comes to rebounding, Ja's putting about 5.7 rebounds to Curry's only 5.2. So yeah, it goes to Ja Morant. So next is defense. Defense is, I think, a bigger blowout than people realize. Ja Morant is an awful defender. When he does not play, the Memphis Grizzlies become so much better on the defensive end. On the other hand, Curry is a pretty good defender. He's not all defensive quality, he's not an elite defender, but he is a very good defender. So Curry comfortably takes the spot as a better defender. And finally, leadership. Who's a bigger leader? This, I'm going to have to give it to Ja Morant. Curry is not really the leader on his team. I'd say that's really Draymond Green. And, well, I feel like Ja Morant is the person who's the actual leader on the Memphis Grizzlies. So I'm going to pick Ja Morant for leadership. So Ja Morant wins in scoring, rebounding, and leadership. And Stephen Curry wins in playmaking and defense. So, at least according to this, Ja Morant wins on this 3-2. But I'm going to say the scoring is really 50-50. It can go either way, and I chose Ja Morant narrowly. And the thing is, the rebounding, well, that's not as important for guard. And I think Curry's a good bit better at playmaking, and Curry's a lot better at defense. I think those are more significant than what Ja Morant wins. So although it's 3-2 on the attributes, Curry wins because he wins his attributes by larger margins. So yeah, that's the full list. Luka came in at number 1. Obviously, he's like a top 3 player in the NBA. Curry comes in at number 2, and Ja comes in at number 3. That is the full video. If you guys did enjoy, please click the subscribe button and like the video. It helps the algorithm and it helps boost this to other people. If you disagree with any of my takes, feel free to comment down below in the comment section, as I don't take anything personally. We're just talking hoops out here. And finally, if you guys did enjoy this video, I highly recommend you click on this video on screen, as I rank the top 25 players with the highest potential in the NBA. This obviously includes superstars like Ja Morant and Luka Doncic, who both appeared in this video, but it also includes young stars like and far more. If you guys want to figure out who I just named, click on that video. Anyways, guys, see you in 1 minute.